KCFM podcast.
Billy Whitehurst, good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
It's great to have you here. Thank you for coming up to Hull. You've got good memories of this city, haven't you?
Oh, fantastic memories. City, the people, football, greyhounds, everything. It's been fantastic to me, Hull City.
Mm. Now, you were playing local non-league in South Yorkshire, Mexborough Town, if I'm right, and also working as a bricklayer when Hull City first expressed their interest in you. When did you first become aware that this league club from a slightly further north than where you were from were actually interested?
Well, I've been playing for Mexborough Town, as you just said, and I was selected for Midland League select team, and we played at Spalding against Notts Forest team. Mm. I was lucky enough to score a goal. We beat them 2-1, and after the game, the manager of that select team came up and said that Hull City had been interested, wanting to watch me in a reserve game for them. Mm. A week later, I played for Hull City reserves against Notts County reserves at Notts County. I think Chris Chilton, as it goes, what sub that night. I played. Again, I was lucky enough to score a goal. After the game, Mike Smith and Cyril Lee were the managers. He was the manager at the time. I had a talk with them, with Mexborough Town's manager, who was a man called Harry Lee. Mm. Fantastic bloke. Absolute character as well. I've gone in with him, and Harry's a bit worse for where we drink. He'd been drinking, you know. We've gone into players' lounge after the game, and Mike Smith says he thought I played okay, you know, and did well, and that he'd like to watch me again. Mm. At this moment in time, Harry's joined in. He says, "Excuse me," he said, "but you're not watching him again. You've seen that's what he does. That's what he does week in, week out. We've got plenty of other teams looking at the lad. There were nobody looking at me, but that's what he said to him. He says, Billy, pick your bag up." I picked my bag up. I thought Harry's going to blow it for me, you know. Started walking out. Mike Smith shouted me back. He says, "No," he says, we thought you did really well. We want to sign you." And that was on Tuesday night. I think I signed on the Thursday. Mm.
Given that we know how much you would go on to improve at Hull City, what were they buying back in 1980? What was that non-league Billy Whitehurst like as a player?
Very raw. I think Chilo quoted a bit afterwards, you know, when I went on to sign for Newcastle, a rough diamond. Whether it would be that, I wouldn't have thought so. To be totally honest, I was pathetic when I first come to Hull City. I found it a big difference from like training once a week with a non-league side to coming and training every day. I found it really tiring. I was exhausted most of the time. My second touch was a tattle, invariably.
It's that old adage of you can pass the ball, you can trap the ball further than some players can kick it. Was it?
Well, I would say that adage was exactly right for me. I must admit I was pathetic, and how really I got by it first 2 years is beyond me, because City weren't doing so well as a team when I come here. The third bottom at old second or third division, and the thing about it was Mike Smith were under a bit of pressure, and he signed me. And to be fair to him, you know, he stuck by me, gave me a 2-year contract. I think after a couple of months he might have thought, well, what have I signed here, you know? But having said that, they weren't losing much money on me because they'd only paid £2,000 for me.
Yeah, $2,500, I think.
£2,500, yeah. And so it was a bit of a risk.
You must have had something. I mean, was it the aggression? Was it the aerial ability? Did you have a good attitude? What did you said you were very raw, but there was obviously something under there. Otherwise, they wouldn't have. Signed.
Yeah, they must have seen something. I mean, at this moment, I can't see what they saw. To be fair, I was a winner. I wanted to win. Probably too much when I look back, but I don't know what they saw. They probably saw that rawness, and they thought that maybe with somebody like Chilo who could, yeah, there was a lot of potential there probably, and that's what they obviously thought they saw. It took a long while for penny to drop with me, you know. I mean, I trained really hard. I found it difficult playing in first team. I got nervous, and I was getting cramps, costing me nerves. The crowd were particularly good to me, to be fair. You had a few people who were booing, and you get that everywhere. But I mean, when I look back, I would say they had every reason to boo, because, as I said earlier on, I wasn't very good. But then when I worked, I went back afternoons and worked, and I think the difference is when you're playing non-league, your first touch is not as vital as what it is in a professional. because I mean, obviously you're playing around better players, and my first touch, as I said earlier, my second touch was terrible. I just had to work and work and work on my first touch, and once you get your first touch there, then you've got time to look around you, and once that come, then your confidence starts coming.
You joined a club that was about to be relegated that season. You joined midway through the 81 season when the club was relegated to the bottom division. Did you try, when you came in, as far as your character is concerned, to instill a bit more character on the squad? Did you see a squad, your new teammates, were they all deflated? Were they hard to pick up? And was that part of your...
Sorry.
Was that part of your game as well at the time, was to try and instill some character into the squad?
Not really, no. When I've come here, there were quite a few Welsh internationals, Nick Deasy, John Roberts. You know, there were some good players there. Mike Smith, who I thought were very unfortunate as a manager at Hull City, because when I came here, he had a 5-year roll-on contract. And if you look back, Mike Smith got the sack at the end of that year. And Colin Appleton came in.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about it is, the biggest part of that side, what Colin took over, was Mike Smith's. Do you know? And I thought, like, Mike Smith was so unfortunate to get sacked when he did. If they'd let him finish his contract out, I'm sure the promotions what Colin got and to a certain extent what Brian got would have all been Mike's, because he started building that squad. They were all young lads who were in the squad, came through together.
And you had a young captain. I mean, Gareth Roberts was given the captaincy and he was 20 years old at the time.
Gareth Roberts were there, Steve McLaren were there, Brian Marwood were there. You had the nucleus of a good side, and he just wanted. Don't get me wrong, Colin Appleton brought some good players in.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, he brought Billy Askew, Billy Wolfe to a certain extent. When he brought Billy Wolfe in, and he had. I think he was one of the first managers who did this rotational thing. Colin, I mean, he dropped people for fun. I can remember I played at Boothferry Park once. I scored 2 goals. Dennis Bull got man at match. We went to Halifax to play Halifax, and it were in Easter time, and me and Dennis had got changed before game, which you shouldn't do really, because we didn't know we were in team. Colin came in and he says, "What you doing?" He used to go, "Big bad wolf." Colin used to do, He says, "What you two doing?" Oh, he says, "We put his kit on, like." "Oh, take him off. You're not playing." So he didn't play. Both had been man at match, and I'd scored 2 goals previous game.
And you both got dropped?
Both got dropped. Whether that was because we'd put his kit on, we had the audacity to put his kit on before he'd selected team or not, I don't know. But the thing about it was, I mean, as we walked out, Buddy turned round and says, "Never mind, lads," he says, "I can remember that there was another great man got crucified at this time of year," and we walked. Well, that was Buddy. That was Dennis all over.
That was Dennis Booth's sense of humour.
Yeah.
Debut was October the 25th, 1980, away at Gillingham. Any memories?
None at all. Only memory I've got of that is when I got home to Thurnsker, and all my sisters took me straight to the club, and because they thought, I were a professional footballer, and I could buy the beer probably, and all that. But I just went back to the club and got drunk as a rat. I didn't pull no trees up and all that. I got brought off. I got Shepherd's Hook.
Right. Okay. Keith Edwards was there at the time. Les Mutry joined the same season as you, a few months afterwards. Now, they would become 2 partnerships that would be very important to you, particularly Les Mutry, I would think.
Well, I mean,
Keith came in your second spell as well, and that was a great partnership. You and Keith didn't play together that long because he was on his way shortly after you arrived. But Les Mutry and you there was the potential there for a great partnership, wasn't there?
Yeah, the thing about it is, I mean, things had settled down. Les come from Blythe Spartans, who had a good run in FA Cup against Hull. I think he went to Ellen Road and Hull City won tie. So I think the first and foremost about Les Mutry, he was 32 when he came to Hull City, something like that. He were knocking on his career, but he was a terrific player. I've played with some. I've been lucky enough to play with some great players in my career, and Les would be as skillful as any of them. And he'd score goals. His technique was terrific, but apart from that, he was fantastic off pitch, and I think that was a big thing with Hull City at that time. The players got on, and we had a good social life as well. We went out for a drink after games. It won't be all and end all football, and I think if you're getting on with players off the pitch, you'll do quite well with them on the pitch. Keith, on the other hand, I didn't particularly get on with initially. Keith, as I said earlier on, I've been fortunate to play with some good players and some good goal scorers. I mean, I play with.
He was a natural, though, wasn't he?
Well, I've played with John Aldridge again, were a natural goal scorer.
Oxford, yeah.
Tommy Tynan at Doncaster. Tommy, great goal scoring record.
Scored a lot at Plymouth, didn't he?
Yeah. Dean Saunders, great goal scorer.
Oxford, yeah.
But I mean, Keith was just. I mean, if you had to put your life on anybody to score a goal and say, look, if he scores it at any point, you know, you put it on Keith Edwards. I mean, I look back, and some of the goals he got were absolutely unbelievable. I mean, again, like Hull City at that time.
In that case, sorry, having Keith Edwards there, who clearly was pretty much the finished article, did that give you something to look at and think, I want to be like that? Did it give you something to aim at?
Well, not really. I mean, I wasn't particularly keen on Keith when I first come to Hull.
But presumably you still appreciated he was a good player.
I thought he was a great player. I thought he was a bit arrogant. When I got to know him, he's a shy person. When you do get to know him, he's quite funny, and he's he's still a good friend of mine now. We do quite a bit of few things together. But when I first met him, he wasn't my cup of tea. Eventually, we became very good friends.
You scored your first goal at home to Blackpool in a 2-1 win. It was your only goal of that first season. You got any memories of that? Any memories of your first goal for Hull City?
I have actually. Yeah, it came at. I think I come on a sub, and ball bounced in edge at 6-yard box. It very seldom missed from 3 or 4 feet. I very seldom missed from that range. And
you came on as a sub for Nick Deasy, yeah.
I chested it down and I smashed it, and it went into the top corner from about 3 foot. And why I remember that? Because in goal for Blackpool at the time were Ian Esford. And Ian Esford became a good friend of mine. We went to Hong Kong together, played with him at Sunderland, and always seemed to do well against Alan Ball's sides. And later on, Alan Ball took me to Stoke for a few months, and I thought Alan Ball were a fantastic man.
So the following year was a decent season, but the club was skint and in danger of going out of business. Now, what do you remember of that when the receivers were called in and all the players were put on the transfer list?
Well, I think initially... I think the club dropped a bit of a clanger, or the receiver did, because, like, players were getting phone calls from different clubs. Because, you know, at the time they had some good players. You know, I mean, Brian Mowd, Steve McLaren, Gareth Roberts were all getting phone calls from different clubs. And
Tony Norman, Billy Askew.
Well, you know, I mean, it goes without saying, doesn't it? You know, I mean, Tony Norman was a phenomenal keeper. Yeah. And they were all getting phone calls from different clubs, you know, and I can remember I got a phone call from Frickley, who I eventually went on to manage in Northern Premier League, but the thing about that was, I mean, I just figured, like, I think this is ended days for me, you know. I mean, as you said, club in receivership, things look black, but then I thought a breath of fresh air came into Hull City, like, I thought Don Robinson came in, and like, I just thought he was a fantastic man.
All the players who played in that Don Robinson era through the most of the 1980s speak very highly of them.
He was just a breath of fresh air. He wasn't particularly a football. He wasn't born and bred a football. I mean, I think he played for OKR as a young kid, and then he went. I know he were a wrestler. They called him Dr. Death. I mean, first time I met him, he wanted to fight me in a phone booth at Scarborough. You know what I mean? and that's the type of bloke he was, Don. And he would just...
Would it have been a proper fight, or would it have been just a wrestling match? No, I don't necessarily want you to answer
No,
that.
I think Don had won on points, like.
Right. Question for you here from Paul. As much as I love Dean Windus and was looking forward to and enjoyed his autobiography, the one I'm really looking forward to is Billy's. It popped up on Amazon, the bookshop website, as to be shortly published, but has since stalled. Will it be published soon, and if so, will it be warts and all?
Is that Paul?
That's Paul.
Hiya, Paul. I don't know. It'll be warts and all when it does come out. It's about 3/4 of the way through, which it has been for about 3 years. And I just can't get off me bum and finish it. And the thing about it is, the publishers they give me a few quid, you know, to write it, and they want the money back now. So I've got to do something shortly. So,
do you still plan to finish it and release it?
Oh yeah, I plan to finish it. Plan to release it. It should be good reading. You know what I mean? It's just getting. I've got loads on with dogs. That's an excuse, by the way.
Yeah.
I've got to get it finished, to be fair, Paul.
Okay, there you go, Paul. Thanks for the email. 1 or 2 as well, which we'll come to later. Let's talk Chilo, because he's an enormous hero to Hull City fans because of everything he achieved as a player, of course, first and foremost. But he was your mentor, essentially, in the 1980s. He turned you into the standard of footballer you needed to be at Hull City, or certainly he was a good deal responsible for it, and he's very proud of what you and he achieved together on the training pitch. Tell us how that began. I mean, did you ask him for help? Did he volunteer to help, and what did you actually do on the training pitch together once it was decided that you needed Chilo to work with you?
Well, no, it wasn't planned. I didn't go ask Chilo for help. He saw that I was striving to get better, and as a coach, that was his job anyway. But the thing about it is, that if he sees people who are trying to do the best and going back and doing a bit more, he's going to try and help them a bit more as well. Can I just say, before I get on to that, is that, like, I just think Chris Shilton epitomises everything what Hull City should be. I mean, he's a gentleman off the field. He was an absolute tremendous player on it. And I think, like, players now or players who've gone, if they could live up to what he's done in the game and after the game, you know, they won't go too far wrong, like.
Did you accept that you needed to be improved?
Oh, without a doubt. As I said earlier, I mean, it was quite embarrassing initially. I mean, but Chilo obviously saw that there was something there, like we talked about earlier on, and he got me back after, you know, afternoons training. He'd get two bollards. He'd put a bollard about 15 yard to the left of me and 15 yard to the right. He'd go 30 yard away and just drill balls in at me, and he'd shout left, right, or keep it, you know what I mean? So he'd ping a ball in at me 30 yard. I'd have to drop it off to the left bollard, drop it off to the right bollard, or
hold on to the ball.
Just hold it and back in as if you were backing into a defender.
Yeah.
And you did that for hour after hour. And like, obviously, more you work on it, better you get. And then when your confidence comes, another game he introduced would be just me and him 25 yard apart. He'd knock a ball in about a foot high skimmer just across top of the ground, and he'd just ping it in, and I'd have to control it within a yard, otherwise he'd go 1-0 up, and I'd ping it back, and it was just a version, just a bit of fun, but just killing ball dead.
Yeah.
And then you're doing that hour after hour, and if you know you're working with someone who you've got tremendous respect for, because he was a fantastic player. And you know that he's telling you all the right things to do, your runs and what have you.
His record, as you mentioned already about his record as a player and his demeanour as a gent, and I'm with you, absolutely. I've known Chilo a few years, and I love the guy to bits. But his record presumably made you trust him straight away to do the right thing by you as well.
Well, that's right. I mean, you're looking at a player who, well, I mean, what a few years ago they had the vote for the top 100 Tigers.
And he came second to Waggy.
He came second to Waggy, which, to be fair, I think it's a toss of a coin. Who's the top Tiger? In more Waggy, it could have been a joint first in my book, you know. But so that just shows you how well loved he is in this city.
Chilo himself is very, very proud of the work you're putting together as a pair. Did you see his involvement as key to how your career subsequently developed? In a way, did he save your career? Well, could you have done it without him?
Probably not. I mean, the thing about Chilo was, what he was good at as well, as a player and as a coach, he'd tell me what to do off the ball. When the ball wasn't nowhere near me, I mean, invariably what he'd do if the opposing keeper had the ball, he'd be behind the centre-half, and as the ball were kicked, he'd come onto it. And, you know, all silly little things like that. I mean, when I was playing in that time, in 80s, a lot of people had come just to watch a confrontation between a centre-half and a centre-forward.
Yeah.
Which, invariably, you don't get so much now because...
It's less of a contact sport, isn't it?
Correct, yeah. So, you know, I think that's gone out the window. I mean, I would imagine Chilo to be playing now would have found it difficult.
He would be in all sorts of trouble on a weekly basis.
Sure,
yeah.
That's right. So, you know, I mean, game's changed. Fought better probably. In you know, technically, it's far superior than what it was then. But yeah, as a fact about Chilo saying would I have made it? Who knows? I mean, he certainly put me along the right way.
Let's talk about the 1983 season, promotion season, the first one. And it was under Colin Appleton by now. Now, you didn't score many, but then again, the strikers generally didn't. The high scorer that season was Brian Marwood from the right wing. And the team player in you, I think, was probably starting to come out at that point, wasn't it? You appreciated more about being a member of a team as opposed to an individual playing up front. And the joy of being part of a side that won promotion must have been great for you.
Oh, it was fantastic. I mean, and as you say, like, it was a team. Hull City in that period of time, there were no, like, certain individuals who were better than, stars. OK, you could say Brian Marwood probably the biggest star in that side.
I think you got Emlyn Hughes right at the end of that season as well. But that's
yeah.
He only turned up for a few games, of course, so...
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I would imagine he didn't do nothing for the promotion side of it. The thing was, that it was a team that actually won the promotion, and playing alongside Brian Marwood, because Brian, to be fair, were a great crosser of the ball. Les Muty did well off him, myself. But, as you say, I mean, Colin Appleton, who was manager that year, I mean, they keep talking about it a lot now in football. The Liverpool manager and last Chelsea manager about this switching players and rotation rules. I mean, he did that back then in '80s. Colin Appleton.
I've got the record of that season, and it is there's only a handful of players who look like, I don't know it doesn't say whether players were injured, of course, but there's only probably Brian Marwood, Steve McLaren, and Gareth Roberts and Dale Roberts actually, who were pretty much there all season. If you don't count Tony Norman, who was always there. The rest of you did sort of flip
rotate,
in and out of the side. What a midfield you had behind you as well. Roberts, Askew, McLaren and Marwood. I mean, those four playing behind either you or Mutry or you and Flounders, whoever it might have been in those 2 seasons.
Well, if you'd have known then, if I'd have known then how good they were going to turn out to be, them four, I would have gone on had a bet on Hull City to get promotion, do you know what I mean? But we didn't know that. No. We didn't know how good they were going to become.
84, you missed out on promotion by a single goal. And when Brian Marwood was on this programme a few weeks ago, he talked about the tears that were shed by the fans and players over that one single goal that you missed out on the last day of the season at Burnley. You scored 10 that season. The improvement was obvious in your goal scoring, if nothing else. The improvement was obvious.
Sure, I mean, Brian said we shed tears, did he? Probably Brian shed tears. He were a bit like Gaza, Brian. I mean, the thing was, we had a great... We knew what we had to do, didn't we, at Burnley? Because
of all the delays there was a bad winter, wasn't there? And you had loads of games that were called off, so by the time you went to Burnley, everyone else had finished.
Well, what it was, we were on his way to Burnley down M62.
Yeah.
We pulled in at some services, and it was snowing. It was quite thick on M62. Colin Appleton got off and phoned Burnley up to see if the game were going to be on, and they got cross wires for some strange reasons, and Colin got back on the coach and said, turn the bus round, it's off. When, in actual fact, Burnley's ground were it were good to play. So there were murders. I think Hull City got fined for not turning
up for the fixture, even though it was on.
Subsequently, we played Burnley on the Tuesday night after the season had finished for everyone else. So we knew what we had to do. We had to beat Burnley 3-0 to go up.
It was 2-0 quite quickly as well. You knew when that third goal just wouldn't come.
Brian scored 2 goals.
Yeah.
We should have beat him 6. I missed 2 or 3. To be fair, I mean. We absolutely hammered. It was a strange, bizarre night because Burnley had about 1,000 supporters there. Sheffield United had 3,000 supporters there.
They were the other rivals for the promotion
That's
place.
right, yeah. So they were cheering Burnley on, and Hull must have had 6,000 supporters there. Because to be fair, the support from Hull, all time hour at Hull were absolutely. It was tremendous. Second to none. It was fantastic support.
Scouts were starting to have a look at you that season. 85, 24 goals. That's when it all started for you, really, wasn't it? 24 goals in the 85 season. First one under Brian Horton, another promotion. It was you and Andy Flounders up front by now. And another, so 2 promotions in the space of 3 years, and you were heavily involved in both.
Yeah,
that must have been an even more satisfying one, I would have thought, because it was a lot of Colin Appleton's side, even though he'd left, that had taken yet another step.
Well, yeah, you could say it was Colin Appleton's side. As I said earlier, a lot of Mike Smith's side.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, all that nucleus, what that sent that midfield, what you quite rightly said were
McLaren, Marwood, Roberts and Askew, yeah. I mean, Marwood had gone that season. He went to Sheffield Wednesday.
That's right.
But the other 3 were still
But yeah,
there.
I mean, it was a fantastic season, and as you said, I was lucky enough to get a few goals, but I think if you look through your books, there were people scoring from all over the field.
You got 20, top scorer in the league. You got 24 in all competitions, but 20 in the league, 14 for Andy Flounders, and there's a 6 for Billy Askew, which was pretty good from the left-hand side, and Pete Skipper contributed with 5 from defence, going up for set pieces.
Yeah, they must have hit Pete.
He was here a few weeks ago, and he talked about the goal at Walsall that clinched promotion.
Did he score it?
He did score it, yes.
Is that why he talked about it? Well done, Pete.
Following year, you
Can I just go on? You
sorry,
mentioned a blast from the past there, Andy Flounders, who came through the youngsters at Hull City.
Yeah.
And to be fair, what a credit to everybody at Hull. And he scored goals wherever he went for fun, wherever he went. And he was a fantastic player, Andy.
Following year off, you went to Newcastle mid-season. So, I mean, we're not going to necessarily talk about that. I want to concentrate on Hull City, that's why you're here. But the lad from non-league had made it with a move like that.
Yeah, it was great going up on train with me Crombie on and me Brown. There's a lass asked me a question here, what worst dressed player you ever played with, and I couldn't say myself, so I had to put blame on somebody else.
But I think everybody dressed
But
badly.
I think it was me, like, to be fair.
Alan Smithson of Cottingham has called to say, Billy's comments about Mike Smith were much appreciated and he was a good guy for the Tigers. So there you go.
Okay.
Email from Dino. I think you know Dino, don't you? He said, could you please ask Billy if he fancies flashback or replay tonight at the Dogs?
I think replay will win it, Dean.
Okay. Is that a genuine answer, or are you trying to make him lose a few quid?
No, they're both his dogs. I mean,
Oh, right.
What it was, we put two dogs on tonight at Askin. We've put two dogs on tonight at Askin,
Yeah.
and they've put them in the same race.
Right.
And like,
So one's got to win and one's got to lose, yeah.
well, replay will win it.
Replay will win it. You want to mention the Dogs, don't you? And,
I'd just like to say, I mean, just to Hull City, just to the people of Hull, like, that obviously at the Boulevard now, they've got a ground stadium open again.
Yeah.
And the management there and everyone who works there have done a tremendous job. And, you know, if you could get along and just support them, you'd have a great night there. It's fantastic now.
Let's talk about the brief return to Hull City. Still a successful one, but a lot briefer than the first one. Newcastle didn't work out. You went to Oxford, Reading, Sunderland, and then in December 1988, a deal is struck with Eddie Gray involving you and Ian Hesford coming here. Ian Hesford had obviously never been before, and Tony Norman going the other way. Did it feel like we're coming home?
Well, I was at Sunderland at the time, and it was Christmas time, and I was made sub for some strange reason. I thought I'd been doing okay, but Dennis Smith, who was manager, made me sub, and never brought me on, never looked like bringing me on. Went and got a bath after the game, and one of the staff came in and asked me if I'd go up to Dennis's office. I went into Dennis's office, walked up to the table. I says, "What's up, Gaffer?" Like, and he says, "Somebody wants to meet you." And I turned round and Don Robinson were there, and he just says, "Look," he says, Sunderland want Tony Norman. He says, "I can't let Tony Norman go to Sunderland unless you come to Hull." He says, I mean, I think that I always thought like this: if Dennis Smith wanted me to go, or whoever I was playing for wanted me to go, or I want part of their plans, why stay? But going to Hull City anyway was fantastic anyway, because obviously from the time I had before. But
Did it surprise you that Tony Norman was going the other way, given that you played with him for so long and he was so effective? He went 8 years without missing a game. Did that bit of it actually surprise you, that Tony Norman was leaving Hull City?
Well, it was amazing, to be fair, but I don't know. Tony probably thought he'd done enough for Hull City and he'd been there long enough. I don't know. I mentioned Tony. I mean, he was an absolutely terrific goalkeeper. Just a bit unfortunate that he was around at the same time as Neville Southall. But for him to go to Sunderland, I don't know. He was probably a good move.
It was a great move for him, as it turned out. But
they got promotions and
got to a cup final as well.
Correct. And to be fair, Tony was, he quite well. He was well liked there. I know that for a fact because I go up there regular. So, I mean, it was a shock, but me coming back to Hull City, I enjoyed every minute of it.
There was the graffiti overnight, Boothferry Park, Rambo Billy and welcome back Big Billy, as I recall.
Yeah, that's right. I think if it
was there for ages as well.
Well, I mean, they didn't have a lot of money to paint it out, but I think what it was there, that was Don Robinson's idea, just to get that's what it was like, Don.
Rambo Billy and welcome back, Rambo Billy on the north stand, and I think welcome back. I'm trying to think where.
Seriously, it was Don Robinson who had that done.
Right.
That's serious.
Brilliant. I never knew that. I mean, I just thought thought some fanatical City supporter had just broken in overnight and painted it on. On your second debut, you scored against Ipswich, flying header. I remember it very well. Everyone relaxed. Billy Whitehurst was back, and it was a very different club now, wasn't it? Eddie Gray was manager. There were some good youngsters in the side, but other things hadn't changed. You still had, Gareth Roberts, Billy Askew was still there, Richard Jobson, Andy Saville. And Keith had been back a few months as well, and this time the partnership gelled, didn't it?
Yeah, we did well. I mean, as I said earlier on in interview, that me and Keith initially we didn't hit it off, but towards the end of my first period here, we were good friends. And when I come back, that partnership, as you said, gelled straight away, and we started scoring goals. And To be fair, one of the funniest things in football, we played a game, and off the top of my head, I can't remember. It was at Boothferry Park, and we went out, and we both talked like Tommy Cooper all the way through a game. You know, I've got good feet. Over, you know, talking like that. Me and Keith, all the way through the game. And Keith got winner. And he turned around to me, and I've gone up to him to say, well done, and he went, just like that. And that's true. I mean, if you get Keith on here, he'll tell you.
I'm hoping that we will.
I mean, the centre-halves who we're playing against is just looking at it has gone out, you know what I mean?
There was a cup run that year, of course. You each scored a goal at Bradford. A great day out that was in the 4th round. Liverpool at home in the 5th. You scored one, and you made one. Even though the result didn't quite work out, that was for a striker. That was against the best team in the country. That was a pretty good afternoon's work, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we Liverpool, as you said, then we're probably the best team in the country.
So we're defending champions at the time, and they'd been in the previous year's FA Cup final as well. I mean,
they were a good side. I mean, I scored a goal. I think more due to Bruce Grobbelaar being a bit frightened than anything else, because it was a 1-on-1, and he stopped when he saw me and hit my shin and went in. And then Keith scored. We went in 2-1 at half-time. John Aldridge scored a couple, and he scored with an header.
Yeah, he did. He scored with a header, and then
Barnes did as well.
Yeah, John Barnes scored the first goal. Yeah,
and then I've missed up net in the last minute, to be totally honest.
There was a half an hour of chances created. I mean, you missed. Yes. Wayne Jacobs had one tipped over the bar. Andy Payton had one blocked on the line. It just wouldn't go in, would it?
We didn't show ourselves up. We played particularly well against them.
Absolutely.
But then after that, bubble burst after the Lord Mayor's show, and then we didn't win a game. I don't think.
Barely won a game for the rest of the season. Alan Hansen, of course, made the famous comment later that you were the hardest player he'd ever faced. I don't know whether it was when you were at Oxford or it was that cup tie, but it's a nice thing for a good defender like that to say.
Yeah, a world-class defender. I think that's all I ever get, though, from people in past, you know, what I had this. You
want to be known as a good footballer as well as a guy who could look after himself.
Not really. I mean, the thing about it is, the thing about it is, first and foremost, that's all they're going to say.
Of course.
But it's like Chilo, they'd say, oh, you're a good player.
Yeah.
Me, oh, you're an ad, so-and-so, you know. But that's life, innit?
You didn't hang around much longer afterwards. Stan Ternant sold you, but twice now you'd left a hero. I mean, you look back at your Hull City life pretty fondly, don't you?
I think not all City, just all people in general. I mean, I think they're absolutely fantastic people, you know. And coming to all regular as I do now at grounds, and I've worked here at Saltend and that. Yeah. It's superb, and I've got great memories, and you know, hope to have a few more like at Boulevard now.
And just briefly, you are known as the hard man. I want to bring this up briefly. Who was hard in return? I mean, we know that you didn't suffer fools and that you were never scared of anyone, but who did you actually think, I'm going to get a game today out of these? Was there any good defender that you really thought, I'm going to get a real game out of this lad?
All joking aside, I always thought that every game, you know, every week, they were all... I mean, Steve Walsh were an hard player, but invariably, you got more kicks in training off Pete Skipper than you did on Saturdays. So, you know, I mean,
Fair enough.
Okay.
Billy, I mean, we've run out of time. I mean, I could continue this conversation all night, and I'm sure you'd enjoy telling us some more stories as well. But it's been absolutely brilliant having you here. Thank you for coming in.
Good night.
And we hope you might be on KCFM again in due course.
Thank you.
Billy Whitehurst with us this evening.